For the months of July and August, I Love My HBCU the podcast, is going on hiatus, and I hope that you have enjoyed all the conversations in season one. We look forward to bringing you some new and engaging conversations in season two coming in September, so mark your calendars. In the meantime, we're running back some of the episodes that sparked a lot of discussion. So sit back and enjoy this dynamic conversation with HBCU Now. Welcome to I Love My HBCU ? The podcast where we express our undeniable love for HBCUs, but where we are also not afraid to address a few tough questions. So, sit back, learn a little, love a lot, and rep your HBCU. Hello, everyone joining us on YouTube, everyone joining us on all your streaming platforms. Welcome to this week's episode of I Love My HBCU ? I have a graduating senior, I believe, political science major from Morehouse College joining me. Langston Morris, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I can't complain. It's a beautiful Saturday morning, and I get to spend a little bit of time spotlighting the amazingness that is you. So I'm excited.
Great. I'm excited as well.
Okay, so I'm excited about everything I've learned about you. I am. But I also got to see you featured on MSNBC not too long ago, and so we're going to get into that a little bit later on.
Okay.
But before we do, tell us what it's like being at Morehouse. Give us some deets about you at Morehouse College.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is William Langston Morris. I am a senior political science major, international studies minor, attending from Atlanta, Georgia. And I love Morehouse. There's not more good things I can say about Morehouse that I haven't almost exhausted already. But Morehouse is a magnificent place to be. It's the mecca of Black male excellence. The thing that really drew me to Morehouse, that really kind of keeps me there every day, that I see when I walk on Brown Street, is just seeing hundreds of young Black men walking towards a goal and walking with purpose. And walking towards a goal with such drive and such determination, but knowing that someone's there to help them if they fall. And that's magnificent to be able to see every day.
The way you describe it, I bet there are young, melanated men all over the country, possibly the world, who are like, oh, I want to go and walk down Brown Street. Like you gave us the name of the street. That's romantic. I love that. But as I'm listening to you, I'm also reminded I've been to Morehouse more than a few times, and bear with me here for 2 seconds. Before my very first visit to Morehouse College, and for those who know that area well, it's a triad of colleges that are right there, right?
Yeah.
When I would meet a Morehouse Man, it was oh gosh, yeah, I think you're gonna not like me after this.
Oh, okay.
I was treated to a little bit of rowdiness. I was treated to a little bit of let's just call it youthful rambunctiousness, right? And this is all before I hit the campus. But my very first time on your campus, especially was in the summer, it was calm. Can you talk about the beautiful, I don't know if anybody's going to be asking you to describe the beautiful calm and grounds of your college, but I guess I'm mentioning that because I was totally surprised at how you can have a picnic on the grounds of your college. It made me want to sit down and take a breath. Talk about that part of Morehouse College, but especially the grounds.
Yeah, absolutely. So on the youthful rambunctiousness part, I'll talk a little bit on that.
You want to go to that first?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'd say the one thing about Morehouse that's so freeing is that there's oftentimes as young Black men, we aren't allowed to be ourselves out loud and very we're not allowed to be ourselves in our fullness, right? But at Morehouse, you can 100% be your authentic Black self, whatever that looks like, whether that's locks, whether that's waves, whether that's braids, whether that's, and however you feel to express yourself, as long as you're, respecting others in that process, that ability to express yourself that you don't find at all other campuses where, there might be rules about, where they'll make black students cut their hair, things like that, where we see that on the
Hmm,
news in other schools.
we
They don't
do.
have those kind of, conditions because we're allowed to be our fully black selves, in our authenticness. And I think that's the lovely part. And yeah, I mean, the campus itself, it's the highest point of natural elevation in the city of Atlanta. So, we're already at the top, the house is already on top, but it's just beautiful land, right? This is land that, our founders and our early presidents of Morehouse College really fought for to make sure that these black folks had. We had to move from Augusta, Georgia, to come to Atlanta to fight the racial injustice that was going on. Morehouse is born out of a necessity to teach young black men to become better versions of themselves. And when you walk onto that campus, knowing the history of Morehouse College, right? The Dr. Kings, the Spike Lees, the Samuel L. Jacksons, the John David Washingtons, the Julian Bonds, right? The leaders and the change makers that have come through Morehouse, and you walk on those hollow grounds and you sit, in the same chapel where Dr. King is pictured in multiple times, right? It fills you with a certain level of necessity to move, right? It fills you with that same spirit that had them become change agents. It kind of pushes you to want to do the same things. And when you talk to professors who, taught, people who are, John David Washington, oh, I had John David Washington in my class. And, that kind of understanding that this is the same seat that this important brother may have sat in, and you're listening from the same professor, right? Because a lot of our professors have been in Morehouse for quite some time. And they bring that energy and they bring that wisdom that's carried throughout their time there with them. So I'd say it really is that kind of, you do get that both and, right? It doesn't have to be one or the other. It doesn't have to just be, Hump Wednesday and Market Friday at Spelman. It can be, understanding that this is a very important place while still being able to, have fun and enjoy college.
Langston, you are still a current student.
Yes.
Does every Morehouse man sound like this?
And no, but I think that's okay because black men should be able to express themselves in, various ways,
Absolutely.
right?
Let me rephrase my question. I didn't say, does every Morehouse man sound like you? I did not ask
I'm
that.
like this.
This. And let me tell you the this that I am so enamored by right now. I was cheesing. I cheese a lot, but I was cheesing. We're both cheesing. I love it. I was cheesing a lot. It's a pride that I was cheesing with when I was listening to you talk, because there is an effortlessness
Oh, thank you.
with which you, I don't want to make up a word. I was going to say ambassadoriate. That's not a word, Tosin. There is an effortlessness with which you speak of this place, with which you speak of this experience, that it is very clear it's not going to go away. And
Absolutely.
so when I ask the question, does every Morehouse man sound like this? The this that I'm referring to is this embodiment of pride. And I've heard them say that Morehouse men have chips on their shoulders. I've
Yeah.
heard them say that Morehouse men are a little bit more cocky than most. I've heard all of those things. I don't know if I have a problem with it or not. I don't. I think that now becomes very individual, right?
Absolutely.
But if I were a college student and what you've just described is what gets poured into me, how would I not have
Right?
a little bit of a chip on my shoulder?
Yeah.
So
I,
go ahead.
yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, absolutely. I think I'd say a lot of more men of Morehouse men sound like this, right? I think the difference is some people go through the college and some people let Morehouse go through them. Folks who
Mm,
maybe just went through Morehouse, got their degree, left, they may not sound like this, right? Because they didn't let that kind of spirit run through them. They didn't really take part in NSO fully. They didn't engage on campus. If you just sit in your dorm room for 4 years and then you graduate, you're not going to feel this way, right? And that's not because Morehouse isn't this institution. It's because you didn't kind of let Morehouse, you have to kind of like, you kind of have to be okay with it, right? Because it's college, right? You have to, but Morehouse is a school based in tradition, right? And a lot of these traditions aren't ones that started last week. They're ones that started,
absolutely.
40, 50, 60, 70, even, 100 years
Absolutely.
ago. So
Yeah.
if you're okay with kind of just being like, all right, I know this isn't the traditional, college orientation, right? But if you've seen videos of Morehouse, new student orientation, you'd see this very different experience, right? But if you kind of allow that, if you kind of just accept it, some people are like, oh, this is corny, this is goofy, I don't want to do this. But if you accept it and you let it kind of run through you, you'll get what you need to get out of it. And I'd say if you accept kind of what Morehouse is and what Morehouse can be and kind of what it can be for you, and you kind of just let Morehouse run through you, I think everyone who has that experience will sound like this.
So, Langston, I don't want anybody to log off right now, but I am going to say that if anyone decided to log off right now, I think the first thing they're going to do is go looking up Morehouse. And
Right,
if they
absolutely.
if they have a young gentleman, a melanated or not, actually, they're
Yeah,
going to want that person to tap into some of this. So
yeah.
I'm going to have us run effortlessly into our rapid fire segment, because I
Okay.
kind of just want to hear the interesting responses you're going to give at this point.
Okay.
So 67 seconds of as many questions that I can throw at you, and
Okay.
I'm excited to hear your answers. The clock
Okay.
starts at the end of the first question. You ready?
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay. Whew. I'm going to start with this one. I like this
Oh,
one.
okay. All
I
right.
like this
Let
one
me
because,
get ready.
yes, because you're graduating in May, right? May 2024.
Yes,
When
absolutely.
you know what? I'm not keeping my fingers crossed for you. It's happening. You're
Let's
graduating
claim it.
There we
Yeah,
go. We've claimed
absolutely.
it.
Let's claim
I've
it.
seen the stuff you've been up to, Langston,
Okay.
Georgia Tech, and all of that. You're graduating in May 2024. So, Langston, you are at your college graduation. Who do you want as your commencement speaker?
Oh, that's such a hard question. Oh, who do I want as my commencement
Mm-hmm.
speaker? Oh, man, that's a hard question. Oh,
Uh-oh.
I
Is it
know
that
this is
there's
rapid
too
fire, so
many?
move quickly, but there's so many good options.
Okay. Give us your top three. Top three.
Okay. Angela Davis. Um,
Nice.
let me think. Henry Louis Gates Jr.
Wow. Okay.
Let me think. Oh, John David Washington.
Wow. Wow.
Morehouse Man. Gotta pick one Morehouse Man out of the group.
Okay. Okay. Wow. Okay. Those I've never neither of
That's a very
those.
weird pairing of three people.
I gave you three, and I think we've run up on 67 seconds, but I'm still going to ask you a couple more
Okay,
questions.
my apologies. That was
No,
a difficult one. I wasn't all the way ready for that one.
but you gave us all of them that I've heard so far are good, but those were John David Washington, Angela Davis.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I hope they're hearing you. I hope one of them actually comes. That would
Me
be
too.
nice. Okay. Shout out your favorite professor and what do they teach?
Oh, Dr. Adrienne Jones. She teaches constitutional law, and I think she teaches national government, but I didn't have her for that class. I had her for con law and race and law. We're like these. Dr. Jones, love you. Thank you so much for everything.
We're going to get into politics very soon.
Okay, I'm ready.
I'm going to ask you an unfair. This is the last question in the 67, and I
Okay.
know it's unfair.
Okay.
These are the only two options I'm giving you.
Okay.
Trump
Ooh.
or DeSantis.
Oh. Wow. That's a. Can I pick or? Um. Oh.
It's you answer any way you want to. Trump or DeSantis. Those are the only two options I'm giving you, but
Okay. Oh. I'm gonna say Trump just because I'm aware of what he kind of can do already. DeSantis is.
I'm getting that a lot. I'm getting that. I'm not
I'd
trying to
still
push
pick or if I had the option to pick either. I'm still picking or.
or okay, so for the record, and that ends our 67. For the
Okay.
record, Langston is actually picking or. He needs another option.
I need something else. I need other options. But if
He
it
needs
came
an
down to it, I'd have to pick Trump.
if
But
he only has
I'm
those
aware of what's
two.
going to happen a little bit.
Yeah, he will play his role because he believes in at least a little I know of you. You believe in us being engaged in the political system.
Absolutely.
So you would pick if you had to, but your preference is an or to
Yeah.
my very, very I'm beginning to learn it's a very unfair Trump v DeSantis option that I'm giving
Right.
some students. Before I tell you why I asked you that question, there's a reason why I asked you that question. Before I tell you why I asked you that question, and I'm excited about hearing how you made the decision. You're from Atlanta, so I
Yes.
don't want you to give me the cookie cutter answer. I
Okay.
want a different answer here.
Okay.
How did you select Morehouse College as your destination for your undergraduate journey?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of my uncles went to Morehouse. So he's always been kind of a very big influence on my life. One of my other male role models outside of my father. And he's just been very influential in my life. And so he's been bringing me around Morehouse since I was very young, but I wasn't really that interested in Morehouse. Once I reached high school, I thought I was going to go to school on the West Coast or somewhere in New York or something like that. I originally wanted to pursue film, so I was going to either go to art school somewhere, try and get an NYU or something like that. But around junior year, I was like, okay, well, let me look into this more. Let me see what it looks like. And I went on a tour, and I was absolutely blown away. My mind just changed instantly. Um, I went to predominantly white schools for a large part of my life, so I hadn't
Okay.
really seen an all black educational environment. And the minute I stepped on the Morehouse's campus and saw, just young black men just dapping each other up, like walking up Brown Street, my tour guide could not stop giving daps. I was like, wait a minute, hold on. How does this guy know everybody? And then I realized everyone was doing it, right? No matter what you looked like, how tall you were, color, size, shape, all that stuff, everybody was saying what's up to everybody. And it was just that genuine brotherhood and that genuine love, right? So I think often black men don't express love to each other like we should. But just seeing that, it was like, oh, this is cool. I like this. And then I just started talking to more of the Morehouse brothers that were there, and they were just so intelligent. And they were just able to articulate themselves and just so well. And it just was like, it just brought something out of me that I was like, this is what I've been looking for. I knew I wanted to be excellent, but I didn't know how. And it brought me to this point to be like, this is the excellence I'm looking for.
Yeah.
I want to emulate kind of what I see here at Morehouse. And so I took another tour with my uncle. My uncle was like, well, I want to come on the time you go on a tour. And we went on a tour together, and we just started talking about different places on campus he remembered. And it was, it was wonderful. And
It
so
seals the deal for you.
that was it. That was it. I knew Morehouse was where I was going to be.
Langston,
Morehouse
I'm
could have been in
hearing
the middle of the woods in Montana, and I would have still went.
you'd have still went. I love that. Langston, I'm hearing, so you may know this, I do know this, that there are a number of HBCU tours that occur for high school students. And you just you literally just imparted upon them the reason why more and more of them need to happen.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm continuing to hear from a lot of you that it was landing there. The minute you got onto that campus and you could just feel something.
Yeah.
So kudos to everyone who's doing all the heavy lift of making sure tours happen, those on the university side, those on the high school side, those on the nonprofit side, just
Absolutely.
making sure step foot on those campuses and see, because if they see, then it's up to them whether or not they catch the fire, right?
Right, absolutely.
Langston, I want to get right into it with you. I'm excited. I'm excited. I'm excited because this goes against the stereotype. I've always heard all these lovely stereotypes of young black men, young black women not being interested in politics. And I know that I Love My HBCU question mark is not about politics, but you are a political science major, international studies minor. And I'm lucky enough to have heard you on different platforms talk about the voice of young black persons. I gave you the question of DeSantis v. Trump, and I want to tell you why I gave you that question, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this, right? I'm finding that amongst my melanated students, they won't say it publicly. Many more of them are more open to Republican policies and Republican ideas, and they're actually also privately open to identifying as Republicans. They won't do it. I see the smile on your face. I see the smile on your face, and I love the smile on your face, because I that means this is about to be an amazing discourse, right? They won't say it publicly. The same ones that would have said to me in private, hey, Dr. Tosin, yeah, no, I would easily vote Republican. Almost doesn't matter who it is. Won't say that in public. Give me your thoughts on that, especially based on one of the responses you gave in your MSNBC interview, whereby a lot of damage has been done to melanated persons by the last 6 years of Republican government.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let me stop. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, on young Black folks identifying more with the Republican Party, I haven't experienced that more. The thing I'd say I see young Black folks doing is struggling. Um,
Hmm.
and for those who aren't struggling, there are things that, young Black folks who are successful want, right? Tax breaks, um, you know, lowering the cost of houses, lowering the cost of, gas, right? These are tangible things people want, right? And for young Black folks who are trying to enter the job market or trying to, get into college, right? Those things are important, right? Lowering my taxes, right? I don't want to have to pay as much money. I just started making money. I don't want to pay all this money, right? And so, to a certain extent, I see why certain aspects of what I would consider classic republicanism is relevant, right? Those are the things, small government, tax breaks, all these things, right? But I don't think, to me, that's what the current Republican Party is about. I think if this was, Mitt Romney in 2012, I could see more of the appeal, right?
Mm.
Romney's like a mostly, normal political candidate. He's, all these things he's kind of played the game per se, right? And his policies more lean into, smaller government, tax breaks for those making, in the ballpark of about 100,000, right? And we know our, college students who are doing well are in that kind of ballpark, right? So that's kind of where I see Republicanism being attractive for some folks.
Hmm.
But today, with what we see, what I would consider like post-Trump Republican, I don't to me I don't see it how that's attractive to Black folks. To me, I don't understand how weakening the ability for women to get an abortion is in any way attractive to Black people. And I'm a man, so I'm not going to speak too heavily on that subject. But there's certain things to see. I don't see why that would be. I don't see why anybody would be happy about that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Restricting access to healthcare, restricting access to, ability to have your kids go to school in an environment that teaches them about Black history. These policies that are these kind of post-Trump Republican policies, specifically with DeSantis in Florida, the Don't Say Gay bill, like all these things to me, I don't see as things that are in any way pro-Black.
Absolutely. Langston, I hear you make some distinctions that I think are worth noting. You talked about classic. I want to get your terminology right. I wrote down classic foundational republicanism is what I
Right.
heard you
That's
say.
what I'll call it.
That's
Correct.
what you call it. Okay,
Old
got it.
school Republicans.
Old school Republicans, which is to the way you described it, very different from what we're seeing now.
Yeah.
Do you think enough conversation is actually happening in HBCU college campuses about all of this, like everything you've just said? Because I've heard a lot of hot button topics that you've thrown out, right? And they are very important to my students. I'm a college professor at Morgan State University and an administrator there as well. And so I get to have a lot of these private conversations. And remember, I'm putting on the ground here. It's a private v public conversation. And as you know, there's some things that we are willing to talk about privately that we're not going to want somebody to know that it was my voice that was behind that particular sentiment. And I will never betray that of my students. But
Absolutely.
here's what I wonder. I wonder based on the way you've made the distinction, because to be fair, I don't hear as much the distinction between the two, the way you've made it. Do you think we are not, and I'm asking you to blame us, and by us I mean our professors and administrators at HBCUs, do you think we're providing enough ground for more of those types of conversations where we look at all of it, not just the hot topic buttons, not just the classical, I just want to identify as one or the other, but I want all of it on the table. Are we having enough of those conversations with our students in order for our students to be more involved in the political space? What do you think?
Yeah, I think as a whole, I don't think even as, as colleges, I think we need to have more conversations about politics in our general courses. I think those conversations are incredibly important and they lead to a lot of discovery and they lead to a lot of usually, post research, right? Like maybe we have a conversation today, but because you said something so insightful and wise, I'm going to be like, you know what, let me go look into that later. And so I think a lot of those conversations do need to be had at a more broad scale for students. And honestly, like students, faculty, administrators, everybody. I think there's certain things that everyone needs to hear. And I think those conversations can lead people to really make their own choices, which I think is all we can ask for. Even
Yeah,
if they're not the choice I would make, you've now made your own choice as opposed to just
absolutely.
following what somebody told you should do, right? And I think a lot of times, because it's expected that Black folks are Democrats, we don't have conversations about, what does the Republican space look like, because we're expected not to be in that space. Talk about Black Republicans, it's not with very much, love and
True.
Black Republicans that get clowned quite often. And for a lot of times it's fair, right? But to a certain extent, we don't have that conversation in the first place. And so if you're not like someone who's very invested or interested in, politics or political history, you may not have that background knowledge to be able to distinct, what Mitt Romney's economic proposal was versus what Donald Trump's was.
There we go. There we go. There we go. Okay. Okay. If you know from the conversation you and I had even before we hit record that we could talk about this all day long, but I'm going to shift gears ever so slightly. Langston, what advice would you give your freshman self if you were entering Morehouse today? What would you tell that young Langston?
Oh man. So I entered it during 2020 during COVID. So my advice to my younger self then, or if I was going in during a traditional school year?
Your advice, regardless of the environment. Let's go with just who you were at that moment.
Absolutely.
And who you are now.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Oh man. If I could go back and look and tell my 18-year-old self anything, it'd be just to be okay not knowing. And to seek knowledge as opposed to seeking answers. I think sometimes we look for the right answer as opposed to just learning. And I think that's, if I could go back and tell myself anything, it would be to just keep seeking knowledge and don't try and answer all of life's questions all at once, right? I was 18 and I was trying to figure it all out so fast because I felt the need to be more complete than, or more ahead, I guess, than I would say I really needed to be. And I think that was detrimental, right? I was looking for all the answers so fast. I need to try and figure everything out, especially in a world where, we didn't really know what was going to happen next. I mean, there was a new variant like every 2 months, everyone knew somebody that had just gotten COVID and had gone to the hospital, right? So it was a lot going on all at once. But I'd say if I could look back to myself, I'd say to just breathe and relax and to trust that things will end up in a better space, because I could not even have in any way imagine where I'd be right now back then. And I'd say just to hold on, because it does get better.
On a slightly personal note, what is, and this is based on the reflection you've just shared with us, right? And it reminds me that hindsight is 2020. Like if I were to sum everything I just heard you say, and again, I'm smiling because I'm hearing more and more of you that I talk to give that same advice to their freshman self. It's almost as if there's this realization now that, Lord have mercy, I wasn't going to have the right answer. Why was I looking for it? There we go. Are you applying that now?
Yeah, definitely. I think I'm okay not knowing a lot more.
Beautiful.
I'm okay being like, I don't know what's going to happen yet. I don't know what's going to happen next. And I'm not in any rush to get there. Right. And I think part of that's that kind of that senioritis, but also that senior anxiety of like, man, it's been a minute. College thing's kind of wrapping up, but oh my God, this college thing's kind of wrapping up. What's right? And there's kind of that duality with that. But for me, it's like if I was a freshman again, I'd probably be losing my mind. But now I'm just enjoying the ride, right? And I'm accepting things for what they are and not searching to have everything figured out. I won't, and that's okay. I want everything figured out next week or next month. I won't have everything figured out next year either. Even if or if I end up at grad school, I won't have it figured out there either. But I'll be in the next spot and I'll figure that out too.
Good for you. I appreciate you. I appreciate hearing you say this. And I honestly hope a lot of students as well as alumni will hear this and assure themselves or reassure themselves that you don't have to have all of the answers and that's perfectly okay. I was going to ask you a question or invite you to share your thoughts on what we could say to incoming freshmen. But listening to you, the reality is, don't we all have to go through it and realize that we just do? So that, let's let them go through it. Let's let the freshmen go through it and realize you're not going to have all the answers. So I'm not going to ask us to reflect on that. And especially as you are entering into this world, we're welcoming you into the world of the alumni space in
Right.
less than a year.
Whew.
What would you want alumni to do for your HBCU that they're not already doing for your HBCU?
Man, I think our alumni are great. A lot of our Morehouse alumni always give back. They're always willing to come help out, and I'd say we just need more of that.
More.
Especially as Morehouse grows and our incoming freshmen keep becoming more of our campus. It's harder for our upperclassmen to keep kind of trying to provide that guidance and help, right? Because there's a lot less of us.
Yes.
A lot of us came in during the pandemic, so a lot of people were transferring around schools. People were going to go to Morehouse, they weren't able to go because of COVID. Man, it's a real situation that happened for a lot of us. Excuse me. Sorry, the allergies are creeping up on me. So for a lot of us, it is quite difficult to try and reach back because there's just so many incoming students. Like
Absolutely.
there's just so many more freshmen on campus, so it's hard for the seniors and the juniors and even the sophomores to be able to fully reach back and give back in the way that we want to. So if alumni could come help in that capacity, whenever we have, like our career fairs, our business program, our MBA meetings, there's going to be, our pre-law society meetings, all these different organizations on campus that really cater towards a large population of students. If our alumni could just come in and do their thing whenever they get a chance, more than they already are, because I don't want to say our Morehouse alum aren't doing anything, because they are. They're really doing their thing, and we really appreciate them. I think if we could just get more alumni engagement on campus, on in events that are, fit that capacity, that'd be great. I think we'd be in a greater spot.
That's a fair ask, and I hope, because you know how sometimes some of the stuff is A and B knowing that C is needed, right? And I hope that there are several, I know from observation and a little bit of experience, you are right. Morehouse alums show up. They do. But I hope that there's somebody who's listening and actually thinking also about a way to just make that pipeline a little bit more fluid with regards to that need, because the need is several. I hear so many things in what you said,
Right.
and so many things in what you did not say that I. He shook his head. For those only listening, he shook his head and was like, So I heard a number of things in what you did not say as well that I hope somebody's wheels are turning with regards to how to make some of that structure happen a little bit easier for the students. Langston, finish this sentence for me.
Okay.
In 10 years, I will.
In 10 years, I will. That's a great question. In 10 years, I will be more fulfilled. I don't want to put too many expectations on where I'll be in 10 years. I think the world is always changing, especially being a political science major. All kind of things could happen, which could lead to all different kinds of opportunities that don't exist yet. My job that I might have in 10 years might not even exist today. And I think that's the exciting part about living in a world that's ever changing. While it can be scary because, AI gets more powerful every day, and, Trump and DeSantis are becoming some of our few options for president. But also there's also the rest of the world, right? There's while that might be part of the world, there's a billion other things going on that are changing every day and providing new opportunities that don't even exist yet. So I don't want to say where I will be in 10 years, because I could be, on the moon in 10 years. Who knows? But I'll be fulfilled in what I do because I chose to do something that I care about.
I gave you a nonverbal round of applause when you said that. When you said that, in 10 years, I'll be more fulfilled, which opens the doors for so many things. I wish that for you in 10 years. Before we wrap up, we're going to wrap up soon. I've enjoyed this. I want to bring you back at some point in time, especially when the political season goes crazy. I have a few more questions to ask you, and we'll know going in then. It's just going to be about politics. Today, I couldn't go there, right? But I want to go there.
Okay.
Is there something that Langston is working on that you could bless the audience with, or something you're
Yeah,
looking forward to that you'd want to share with
absolutely.
us? Let's hear it.
So me and a couple of my Morehouse brothers are currently working on a podcast called the
Nice.
Ingenious Podcast. We actually have a trailer up on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere you can get podcasts. Our trailer is up. We're working on our first few episodes out. But it's going to be a podcast where we just interview our friends who do different forms of art, different media, friends who take pictures, friends who are, very stylish, friends who just, are in the artist space and are interviewing our friends who are creatives and just interviewing folks that are within our circle of people, right? A friend of a friend who may be, a designer, a friend of a friend who may, shoot photography, a friend of a friend who may, work with fashion design, just all these different things, interviewing, young creatives, because that's, the next wave of who's going to be making, your favorite designer handbag, right? Like these young influencers, especially the ones around the AUC, are your next Telfar, right? They're what's next, and we believe in our friends and we love them to death. So we want to spotlight them as much as we can, and that's the Ingenious Pod, INGENIUS.
INGENIUS. Ingenious Podcast. Langston, I look forward to tuning in. Now,
Absolutely.
I do want you to leave our audience with a word or phrase on why you love your HBCUs.
Oh man, I love my HBCU specifically. I'll give a why I love my HBCUs and why I love HBCUs as a whole. So I
Let's hear
love
it.
my HBCU because there is no other place on earth like Morehouse. Morehouse is the only Black male academy for excellence at the higher education level that can compete with every other university on earth, and many times outclass every other school on earth. A Morehouse man is so many things, and you can tell a Morehouse man, but you can't tell him much. And I just love the ability to be in an environment where I can just see young Black men thriving every day that push me to be better. I love HBCUs as a whole because there would be no America as we know it today without our HBCUs. Our HBCUs are vital to what the American infrastructure is. You can't write the history we always say at Morehouse, you can't write the history of 20th century without talking about Morehouse. But I think you can't write the history of America or even the world without talking about our HBCUs. So many change makers, so many leaders, so many thought leaders, so many people who have just changed the way we see the world have come through our HBCUs. And all of our HBCUs need more money and need more of everyone's attention because these schools are what matter. And if you're Black, especially with all this affirmative action stuff going on, look into a HBCU. Even if you don't decide to go, which we may hope you do, at least give HBCUs a look because they've been overlooked and overshadowed far too long. And these HBCUs deserve your time, attention, and especially your money.
Langston, I won't add much to that, but to say thank you. In one last reflection of yours, you have showed the importance of HBCUs as well as given value to I love my HBCU ? So thank you everybody for tuning in to I love my HBCU ? I've thoroughly enjoyed my conversation with Langston Morris, a proud Morehouse man. And I hope you have enjoyed watching and listening. I also hope I have earned the pleasure of you subscribing to I Love My HBCU ? And liking this episode. Yours in HBCU love. See you next episode.
Thank you so much.
You've been listening to I Love My HBCU ? Let's keep the conversation going as we share our stories and encourage more practical support of HBCUs, whilst of course holding each other accountable. Don't forget to follow and subscribe for the latest episodes. Until next time, love and lift your HBCU.